You know you're Wasian when your mom puts rice next to a plate of spaghetti and doesn't see the problem. Pasta, marinara, a side of white rice. No explanation given, because in her mind, none was needed. If you just felt that specific confusion in your bones, welcome home. This video is for you. Okay, so, real talk. If you're a Wasian, meaning you've got one parent with Asian heritage and one with Western heritage, you already know that rice wasn't just a food in your house. It was a whole language, a silent, starchy, non-negotiable language that your Asian parent spoke fluently, and your Western parent slowly learned to nod along to. This isn't a universal rule. Every Wasian household runs differently, but if even half of this rings a bell, you're in exactly the right place. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we got a lot more of this coming. Let's start with the obvious question. Why rice specifically with literally everything? Spaghetti. Tacos. At one time there were mashed potatoes and rice on the same plate, like the carbs were about to fight. Here's the actual answer, hiding under the joke. In a huge number of Asian cultures, rice isn't just a side dish, it's treated as the actual meal, and everything else is just the topping. Meat, sauce, vegetables, that's all just flavor for the rice. Which means from your mom's perspective, a plate without rice wasn't a lighter meal. It was an incomplete one. You weren't being weird. You were following a food logic that's been running for thousands of years, one bowl at a time. And it goes deeper than rice is filling. In a lot of Asian households, rice has historically been linked to prosperity, fertility, and good luck, the kind of symbolism that shows up in weddings, in New Year celebrations, in the first solid meal a baby ever eats. So when your mom scooped an extra spoonful onto your plate without asking, she wasn't just feeding you. She was doing something her mom did, and her mom's mom did, going back further than anyone at that table could actually trace. You just experienced it as, why is there rice next to my pizza? Now here's the part that actually explains everything, the I love you thing. A lot of Wasian kids grow up realizing at some point that their Asian parent basically never says those 3 words out loud. Not because they don't mean it, because in a lot of Asian families, love isn't spoken, it's served. Researchers who study immigrant families have pointed out that this isn't personal, it's cultural, a pattern where affection shows up as acts of service instead of verbal affirmation. You know the scoop, you said you were full. She heard still hungry. You said no thank you. She heard just a little more, and she was already reaching for the rice cooker before you finished the sentence. That mountain of rice wasn't excessive. It was a paragraph. Meanwhile, your Western parent is standing there watching this entire unspoken negotiation happen and has absolutely no idea a conversation is even occurring. To them, rice is a side. A neutral carb, something you have sometimes, like a garnish with ambition. They are not wrong exactly. They're just reading from a completely different rulebook, and Wasian kids grow up as the only ones in the house who can read both. Let's talk about the cultural performance test, because rice is where it hits hardest. Can you cook it right? Not does it taste fine. Right. Not too wet, not too dry. Rinsed properly, the correct amount of water, no shortcuts, and absolutely do not, under any circumstance, suggest instant rice in front of your grandmother. If you can make a proper pot, you are suddenly a culinary prodigy, and relatives who barely acknowledged your existence at the last gathering are now asking for your technique like you invented fire. But mess it up? Undercooked, mushy, God forbid slightly burnt? Someone is going to gently, lovingly, devastatingly question how much time you actually spend with your Asian side. Here's the part that's genuinely funny about it. You will call your mom to ask about rice to water ratio as a full-grown adult with your own apartment and your own bills, and she will tell you the exact same thing she told you when you were 9, just covered up to the first knuckle, as if your fingers were still 9-year-old fingers and not, in fact, adult-sized. You will do it anyway. You will use your actual current-day knuckle. It will somehow still work. And it's not just the rice itself, it's the rice cooker. Every Wasian home has one, and it holds a status somewhere between kitchen appliance and family heirloom. It's on 24 hours a day. It is never unplugged. Guests are sometimes more impressed by the rice cooker brand than by anything else in the kitchen. And if you ever suggested replacing it, you would be met with the kind of silence usually reserved for much bigger family betrayals. Now here's the thing. The rice was never really a solo act. It was the anchor of a much bigger negotiation happening at every single meal. Two completely different definitions of what a proper meal even looks like. One side of your family has opinions about soup and when it belongs in a meal. The other side has a totally different architecture for what goes on a plate and in what order. You grew up eating congee for breakfast and grilled cheese for lunch, and somehow neither one felt like a betrayal of the other. They were just Tuesday. Comfort food is where this gets specific, because comfort food isn't neutral. It's the thing your body reaches for automatically when something's wrong. And a lot of Wasian kids have two separate comfort foods installed at the same time, running on different circuits. Sometimes it's a bowl of something warm and brothy that took all day and doesn't need words to explain why it helps. Sometimes it's something out of a box that one side of your family wouldn't recognize as real food, but that still hits exactly the same spot. Both are legitimate. Neither one cancels the other out. You just have double the software most people are running. Here's the lesser-known fact that ties this whole thing together. Mixed-race Asian identity is currently one of the fastest-growing groups in the entire country. The population of people who identify as both Asian and another race has been growing significantly faster than almost any other demographic group over the last decade, which means this exact experience, the rice negotiations, the two comfort foods, the parent who says, "I love you," by filling your bowl before you finish asking, is happening in more households than ever before. You are not a weird edge case. You are, statistically, part of one of the fastest growing food-related identity crises in modern America. And honestly, that's kind of a flex. The through line here is simple. The rice wasn't really about the rice. It was never really about the rice. It was your mom's way of saying something she didn't have the words, or maybe just didn't have the habit of saying out loud. Every extra scoop, every "you didn't eat enough," every rice cooker that's been running since before you could walk, that was love. Translated into starch, served without asking if you wanted the translation. You didn't grow up with a mom who said "I love you" 3 times a day. You grew up with a mom who made sure you were never, under any circumstances, going to leave that table hungry. And if you're being honest with yourself right now, you take the rice. If this one hit different, you know what to do. Like it, subscribe, and stick around, because we've got a whole lot more of this Wasian experience to get through. Watch the next videos.